Hi, I'm Jackie Rabbit. Today I want to talk to you about what you could realistically expect from vocal feminization surgery. It's been months since I've had mine done, and there have been ups and downs, and I want to share with you what the realistic expectations might be for you and whether or not the decision could be a good one for you. Let's go discuss it all. But first, and I know it's horrible, go give me a thumbs up first. I want to remind you right now, even though you haven't watched the video at all. Then go subscribe and click the bell so you know when I post the next video. Let's go talk about vocal feminization surgery. Is it right for you? And what should you realistically expect? Come on with me, let's go discuss it. Vocal feminization surgery is something most of us do think about. Some of us do it, and some of us don't. I did, so I'm going to share with you my experiences and hopefully walk you through the minefield of do you or don't you. So vocal feminization surgery, or VFS, is pretty darn simple in most cases. For me, it just meant putting sutures in my vocal cords higher up than they used to be and tying them together. I actually have a little picture of it that I'll share with you later. But many girls ask, and I did too, what's the realistic expectation? What can I expect? I personally went and looked for everyone who had ever done it and listened to their voice. That's actually not the right way to go about it, because you're not going to end up with their voice. You're going to end up with your voice. That's the mistake I made, and I want to help clarify what you should expect. So while the surgery is very straightforward, you shouldn't really be scared of it. It's easier to recover from than any of the other surgeries I've ever done. It is a very big change. Some of us need it. Some of us don't. Some of us think we do. And some of us don't think we do, but really do. It's ridiculous, I know. Here's the thing I do know. Your friends are going to tell you, oh my goodness, you don't need it at all. You're just fine. Your voice is great. And afterwards, they'll tell you things like, wow, that really made a big difference. I could see why you wanted to do that. So don't be swayed one way or another by what everyone tells you. Make your own decision based on what it is you want for your life. Ultimately, that's the most important thing. You're not trying to please everybody else. You're pleasing you. So please you first and make the decision. Now, there are ups and downs, pluses and minuses to vocal feminization surgery. So let me share some of those things with you. There is a pretty big difference. Obviously, you can hear that it's done its job. My voice is adequately feminine by all means, and it does actually sound like me. It sounds like the female version of me, which is oddly exactly what it's supposed to do. Is it the lilting, wonderful, soft, lyrical voice that I imagined? No, because I would never have been born with that to begin with. It's something between my Aunt Bonnie and my mother. I'm basically just in the family tree with the voice that I have. What I have noticed on the upsides is that I never have to work at worrying whether or not my pitch is correct, whether my vocal tonation is correct. I just speak and it works. I'm never bothered by anyone. No one ever hears my voice and thinks, oh dear, what am I hearing? That doesn't seem right. Everyone looks at me and realizes that is the voice they expect to come out of this mouth, and they're fine with it. So, object is feminization. Perception from others is that's a female voice. Object achieved, right? But we have expectations, and maybe they're not realistic. And I know mine were not. I wanted to achieve a higher pitch and a beautiful singing voice so that I could hit the high notes in Silent Night. Did that occur? Well, I can sing Silent Night, and I still drop out the same top note that I always did. But I sound like a girl doing it. So it is what it is. My dynamic range prior to surgery was bigger. I could go lower, obviously, and I could go higher in my vocal dynamic range, but it wasn't really usable speaking range in the higher register. So it sounded forced or falsetto. And I had to constantly work at maintaining my pitch, tightening my throat, and really, really, really squeaking out that tone. and I was sounding a little more like Fran Drescher than I was Jackie Rabbit. So something needed to be done. And my pitch just wasn't where I wanted it to be, and it caused me a great deal of dysphoria. So I decided to go ahead and get the surgery. It was offered to me through my insurance by Kaiser, and I thought, I'm in this process and I'm afraid of nothing. I will go ahead and have this surgery. So I did. The first time I sneezed when I got home. It was pretty easy. I went in, I went to sleep, I woke up, I had a sore throat, I didn't talk, I got driven home, I went to bed. Woke up at 1 in the morning and I sneezed. I blew the stitch straight off my vocal cord. And I was really distressed. I thought, oh no, I've ruined my voice forever. Obviously, here we are. No, I didn't at all. I went and I talked with the doctor, and a week later, she revised the surgery, put in 2 sutures, made sure they would hold, used a bigger suture so even if I did sneeze, I wasn't going to do any damage. And away I went. Second surgery, about a week later, everything was fine. And it was no big deal. I actually have a picture of that second one. And if you look closely, you'll see the sutures. Let's look at the picture. Now you see here where the shiny spot is. That's where the suture is. It's a little tough to see, but before that suture was in place, the vocal cords would have extended all the way to the bottom of my throat. And it would have been one great big V instead of a truncated V that was squeezed off in the middle. So you can see that there is a big difference there. And it does make a difference in my voice. I never have to worry about, do I sound correct or not? I absolutely sound perfectly correct for a 50-year-old woman who looks just like I do. Everyone in my family sounds kind of like I do. All the girls have a medium, deep, lower voice than some of the other women we know who have a very high voice. I don't have a lot of upper range capability in the dynamic range, but I don't need it for speaking. I can sing, but I sing basically the same range that I had before that was usable. I would have hoped it would have gone up, but it really stayed very much the same. All of my friends say the same thing. I sound the same to them except female. Goal achieved. So you have to decide, what is it that you want from vocal feminization surgery? Be careful not to go and do the same pitfalls that I did. Be careful not to go and listen to every other girl and think you're going to get her voice, because you're not. You're going to get your voice in the feminine tone. So don't worry. The goal will be achieved. Feminization of your voice will occur. But don't expect it to be something that it wasn't previously. If you had a beautiful voice before, you should be able to achieve an effortless similarity with a female tint to it that's unmistakable, and a little bit of a boost in the pitch. I got a little bit of a boost, maybe about an octave. That's about what you get and what you should expect. And that works just fine. Don't worry about whether or not you're going to sound like your favorite actress, singer, songwriter. You're not going to, so stop worrying about it. You're going to sound like you, the female you, and that's perfectly fine. So is this a surgery that's right for you? Well, if you feel you don't have to struggle, your voice works for you, and you don't ever have to worry about whether or not somebody perceives you as having a male voice, then maybe you don't need it. And I know a few of you, little Miss Lowerin with your beautiful voice. I see you. Maybe that's not what you need. Maybe something else is in the works for you. Or maybe you struggled like I did, and you can go back to some of my old videos and listen to them. See what you think the difference sounds like. Some days I was on my game and I had my vocal training up to snuff and I sounded good. And others, I wasn't. Now, I never even think about it. I'm just exactly able to speak whenever I want, never have to worry about what I'm going to sound because I sound like me and it's fine. So I don't really worry about it. Maybe that's what you need too. If that's what you need, if never worrying about whether or not you sound feminine or female is what your big concern is, then maybe surgery is right for you. Just remember, you may not get that wonderful singing voice that you heard that had this higher tone and pitch that was lovely and ringing and melodical. Melodious? melodious. Because I made that expectation, and it was an incorrect expectation to have. So, one girl I listened to quite a bit and helped me make my decision was Natalie. Natalie is in New Zealand. You should be able to find her fairly easily. And her voice sounds remarkably very similar before and after her surgery. But it does sound remarkably female. And she had a really fantastic voice to begin with. And it did a remarkably good job of making her never have to worry about whether or not she said anything out loud because it sounded correct. She didn't have to work at it. That made me realize it was right for me. That's my turning point. So hopefully I've provided you with enough information. It's an easy surgery. You're in, you're out. Don't talk for a week or two. Seriously, don't talk for a week or two. Just rest your vocal cords. People are going to ask you lots of questions. How are you? How was it? Write it down. Don't be tempted to speak, because what will happen is you'll start using those vocal cords and you will be stretching and compressing the area where that stitch is. And you'll develop scar tissue, and it will swell. And as it heals, it will heal swollen. And you'll get a gap, or you could get a gap in the vocal cords at the base, which will be harder to heal later. I actually do have that, but mine's related to having 2 surgeries and it being really roughed up. Sometimes it happens anyway, so follow your doctor's orders as guess what I'm saying here. If you do go for the surgery, follow your doctor's orders and just rest that voice. 1 or 2 weeks is all they asked of me. I'm not admitting whether I did or didn't. So you probably know me better than I know myself. That's all I've got for you today. I hope that was helpful. Take care of yourself. And remember, I care how you get through this process. I know that it's tough. I know that it's a struggle. Every single day you get through is another day you don't have to relive. Every single day gets you towards the goal. And at some point you realize, I'm through the biggest component of this and down to just the little details. And as you live your life, you polish and hone that woman that you are, and your life becomes an easy, gliding, effortless dance. It gets better every single day. And it really only takes about 1,000 days if you get after it hardcore. That's about where I'm at. And to be honest, I couldn't be happier. I have had a really nice transition, and I'm enjoying my life these days in a way that is effortless and feels good to me. I don't worry, and I live nicely, improving myself, working on the inside as much as I personally can, because it matters to me. Use the time in transition to hone and polish yourself inside and out. Take care of yourself. I care how this works for you, so I'm going to keep sharing. And if you have questions, please ask away down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye, Monica. See ya. Bye. I went over to the hardware store today to go pick up some things I needed to hook up a sink. I've always wanted my sink to be all hooked up and put in a countertop and everything, but I never hooked it up, so I needed a faucet and some hoses to hook it up with. So I went down to the hardware store today to get a few things for work, and I picked up the things I needed for myself. And after not being able to find what I needed, the manager helped me, and we did eventually figure out where the things were. I found them anyway. There were hoses and fittings and ball valves and everything I needed, and I picked them all out. And he said, "Are you sure that's what you need?" And I said, "Yes." The faucet has 1/2-inch connectors, and the ball valve has a 3/8 compression fitting. And of course that goes on a 1/2-inch copper pipe. So this is all of what I need. And he said, "Wow, how do you know that?" And he was being so nice. I didn't want to say anything to him. I really wanted to tell him, like, "What do you mean by that? You mean, how does a girl know that?" So I just looked at him and I said, "I watch a lot of HGTV.